Thank you for everyone for joining today's webinar on the three threats that Don Teagues and I will be going over. I'm going to wait just another 30 seconds to let some people roll in, and once that happens, we'll get started very shortly. Thank you. Okay, everyone, we're going to get started here. I have on the call with me today Don Teagues, who's our concierge director. Don, you've been here for not long, well, maybe 3-4 months, something like that.
Oh gosh, no. I think 6 now.
6 months. You're a veteran. You're a veteran.
I am. Awesome. I'm no longer a newbie.
There we go. Awesome. So today we're going to be going. This is part of our Gold Standard series, and we're going to be talking about the 3 threats for financial planning. And I get a lot of questions on this. I've gone through this presentation many times with many people over the years. I've been at IFC now. I work as an internal wholesaler for life, long-term care, and DI at IFC for the past 6 years. But today I wanted to go over this topic because to kind of preface this, I get a lot of questions on, or maybe there's a little bit of trepidation from agents regarding, hey, how do I have a conversation about life insurance? How do I transition from Medicare or property and casualty to life insurance or to long-term care or DI? And so it's hard to make that transition. And I get it, right? Partly maybe because they're just not comfortable having that conversation. Part of it is, how do you do it? When do you do it? So that's really what the 3 threats is. It's a way to transition from point A to point B in a way that makes sense for the client. So it's not only just a transition, but also what it does is it shows the client, hey, here's what happens, if you don't do anything, if you don't take any action. Maybe that's okay. Maybe they're fine. But these threats could impose limits on, how comfortable they can live during retirement. And when clients see that, what you're doing is you're creating value in the mind of the client. And that's when they take action, right? Because, people don't take action if they don't see value. You're not going to buy a stick of bubble gum and don't see value in the stick of bubble gum. So that's what we're going to be going over today, is talking about how do we create value in that you might want to consider.
Right. And just to piggyback on top of that, this is on a one-to-one setting. So this, as you're sitting down with your clients, whether face-to-face or even virtual, this is something that you can use to help transition into more of, what areas of concern are they really concerned about, right? So this setting will be on a one-to-one. If you have any questions, feel free to put your comments or questions in the questions box. And okay, Wade, I'll let you get started. And this is going to be interactive between Wade and myself.
Awesome. Yeah, so how I'm going to present this is Don will be the client. I'll be the agent, and I'm going to show you how to transition to get to a fact finder to be able to find the right amount of coverage and the right type of coverage for Don. So I'm going to turn my camera off here, and I'm going to pop up and share my screen. Don, let me know once you can see this.
Not yet.
Okay. There we go. I think it popped up.
Yes. Yeah, right now I see 3 threats to financial stability. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Well, so how I would tee this up is I would say, hey, Don, say, for example, Don's been my Medicare client, and I've worked with him for many years. And it can be anything. It can be property and casualty, whatever the line of business is that is your focus as the agent. I would say, hey, Don, it's been great working with you over the years, helping you with Medicare. What I'd like to do is take some time to do just an annual review to make sure that you're spending money on the risks that are most important to you. You want to make sure that you're covered in the areas where you need to be covered versus paying money in areas that maybe you don't need to be covered. So Don, what I want to do is just spend like 5 minutes to go over something to kind of show you what threats may affect your financial stability as you approach and as you eventually enter retirement, just to make sure that you're taken care of. Is that okay with you? Just 5 minutes to kind of go through something?
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we hop into the role play, I just want to say one more thing. Stick around to the end, because at the end we'll have an offer for you where you can actually get this script as well as this PowerPoint. So if this is something that resonates well with you, yeah, feel free to stick around. This is going to be just a few more minutes, and then we'll be able to get that script in your hands as well. So okay, so now jumping back into
Thank you for that, Don. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. So Don, we live a life where there's a wide range of how people live, right? People are living in luxury. People are living in poverty. There's a huge range there. Most people are either living comfortably or they're meeting the necessities of life. Where would you say, Don, you and your family are, if you had to kind of put a place here between luxury and poverty on this scale? Where do you think do you see you and your family on this scale?
Yeah, I would probably say we're comfortable.
Okay, so if I put a circle right there, is that about right?
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Perfect. Okay. And just to let the audience know, by the way, you can draw this on a piece of paper. This is for illustrative purposes, but you can put this ball wherever they say their situation is. That's equivalent to that. So Don, we know that when we place a round object on an incline, it's going to
fall or roll.
It's going to roll downhill, right? Exactly. But as long as you're healthy and working, is there any reason to believe that you and your family's lifestyle should go downhill?
No, I wouldn't believe that it would.
Right, and you're correct to say that, right? Because what you've done is you've created a wedge, and that wedge is your earning power. So as long as you have that earning power, you can maintain, if not improve, your lifestyle, pushing that ball even potentially uphill. But if something were to happen to you where you weren't able to work, maybe you couldn't make ends meet, forget about even maintaining your standard of living or much less improving it, that could impact your financial stability and your earning power. In that case, if something were to happen, what are you going to need in order to maintain or improve your earning power? You're going to need
money, I would imagine.
Some money, correct. You're going to need some cash. So what we've identified here at our agency is there's a few threats that impact this earning power. And I want to talk about this, and I'm showing it to you visually so it kind of makes sense. There's no right or wrong here, but I want to find out about your particular situation, Don, to find out what threats may potentially impact you and your family the most. The one threat that we've identified at our agency is that, you may die too soon, right? So tell me a little bit about your situation, Don. I know you have, a couple kids, you're married. Why don't you kind of divulge a little bit about your background, your situation there, and what it would be like if something were to happen where you did die too soon?
Yeah, I think it would be a struggle if it was just my wife and the two kids, because we have one kid in college currently, another child a year and a half away from college. So it would be quite the struggle.
Okay, and then that's not to mention anything that your normal kind of day-to-day living, and also probably vacations and things like that too. I know that you and your wife oftentimes take vacations, right? There's just one.
Oh yeah,
not too long.
We love traveling. That is for sure.
So that could be a potential threat. Thank you for telling me about that. So if something were to happen, that could be one threat that we're talking about. Another threat that we see often is, people live too long. Oftentimes people, they're afraid they're going to, run out of money before they run out of breath, as they say. In that situation, there's a couple of problems potentially there, Don. One is, okay, you live too long. Your money situation as you're in retirement. Now, I don't know what kind of nest egg you've built up, but tell me a little bit about that. Like, how comfortable are you in terms of you're saving and where, you and your wife are in terms of your comfort level with your investments as you approach retirement?
So we're both 56 years old, so we've got that retirement light is shining a little brighter down the tunnel, so to speak.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, we've saved. Have we saved enough? I'm shrugging my shoulders at that because we don't know.
Right.
And like you're saying, if we live longer than average, yeah, that might put a little stress on our finances as well.
And then another threat that's implicit within that is your assets in terms of, well, what if something happens to one of you where, let's say, you need long-term care, you go into a nursing home or assisted living or something like that. That's in tandem to that. I don't know if you guys have thought about that, but another thing to consider as live longer, the threat of having to go through your assets and potentially even having to sell one of your assets. I mean, there's a line that I heard recently that I think is, I think it's really important to consider is, well, what asset would you have to sell first in order to make sure that you're meeting those financial obligations? So how do you feel as far as that's concerned with your situation and your family?
Yeah, that's not something that we even thought about, to be brutally honest.
Yeah, and I think it's good to at least consider these things because again, I've seen situations where people aren't prepared. These are real threats. Everyone's different depending on which one is going to be most impactful to them. But I think it's worth considering, especially as you are preparing and getting ready for retirement. And thank you for divulging that information, Don. Another threat, the third threat that we assess here at our agency is, some type of critical illness or disability happens that would prevent you from earning money at all. Tell me a little bit about that. Like if something were to happen to you or your wife, how would that affect your financial stability?
So we've actually have talked about that, but we haven't put any plans in place. Especially if either she's a high income earner, I'm a high income earner. If either one of us actually are not able to work, yeah, that would definitely put some stress on the other spouse. So whether it be my stress or her stress, it would definitely be a stressful situation. We have talked about it, but we have not put any plans in place.
Okay, and that's it's very common. That's a strong threat that really, in a way, that's the cornerstone threat, because if money is not coming in the door, that can affect everything. That can affect policies that can otherwise protect you because maybe you can't afford to pay premiums on those policies. So that's huge too. Don, thank you for divulging that information. I appreciate it. The reason why we're going over this is to I want to get you thinking about the assets that you have, whether it's you're saving for a nest egg, other assets that you have to be able to that you want to use to protect your family, and the threats that may exist that could destabilize those assets. Now, there's no right or wrong answer right with these three, but of these three threats that we went over, which one would you say you would be most concerned about for you and your family?
I would most likely say die too soon is probably the most lingering threat, I guess, the one that would stick out in my mind. Yes.
Okay. And the reason for that being kind of what you mentioned, something should happen. Your wife, right, being able to make ends meet, and also your kids that you mentioned going through college, the cost of college, etc., that could pose a pretty serious risk. It sounds based on what I heard you tell me.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Don, here's what I'd like to do, and I appreciate you telling me that. I'd like to focus on this one potential threat. We don't have to look at these other two, but let's focus on this for right now to make sure that you have the right amount of coverage in place that's going to prevent you from having to, have that pose as a risk to your family. Make sure that you and your family are taken care of. This won't take long. It's just going to be 5 minutes. I'm going to go through a quick fact finder. Does that work for you? I'd like to be able to go over that just to make sure you have the right amount of coverage and the right type of coverage. How does that sound?
Yeah, that absolutely. I think that would be great.
That sounds great. And really, and so we're off script now, but ladies and gentlemen that are, on the webinar today, that's really the three threats. Really, this is all to be kind of written out and drawn on one piece of paper, really, where you draw out the initial part here, where you kind of tee it up, and then you talk about these three threats to their earning power right here. Literally, the whole thing was 5 to 10 minutes tops, but the whole idea is you're trying to get your clients to open up and talk about their situation, because if they talk about their situation and they identify a threat and they're verbalizing that potential threat, they're going to be way more inclined to take action versus just maybe not even thinking about it, or maybe they do, but they're not taking any action. And that's really the purpose of the three threats. Because, I will say a lot of times I get requests, and I'm sure many agents on this call have seen this themselves. A client will go to your office and they'll say, hey, Bob, I want some life insurance, for example. Want life $50,000 term policy. But, well, how do you arrive at that dollar amount? Why is it term insurance? And is life insurance the most important consideration to have when you're looking at protecting your assets, protecting what's most important to you? And so this allows you to kind of put a pause on that and open it up to have the client talk. Because I can't tell you how many times I've gone over this with agents. A lot of times, like with Don, he's talking about, like this would be life insurance here, right? A lot of people end up on maybe disability, and maybe they thought they had an issue where they needed life insurance, but it was disability coverage that's really most important to them. But by going through this, it allows you to uncover what that true need is. And notice how when I went through this, I didn't talk about specifically life insurance. So this would be life insurance here. This would be annuities and or long-term care here. And this would be disability or critical illness. I didn't mention any of those other than the title here, well, disability. But really, it was more in theme of, hey, how do we protect your assets? What's going to, pose as the greatest threat? Don, do you have anything else to add to this, or do you like to maybe?
So no, other than the fact that, yeah, this is on a PowerPoint right now. You could use this with a client, but the best thing is if you're face to face with them, is just to sketch it out on a yellow notepad or a blank sheet of paper, because this is something that you can have them interact with as well. And I know that along with the scripts, and I'm going way off the cuff here, along with the scripts, along with this PowerPoint, there is another brief recording. I think it's only like 6 minutes long that we can send out to you guys, where Wade actually goes through this on an individual basis, just scripting it and writing it out. That's something else that we could also send to you guys if that's something that you would like to see.
Yeah, and I will mention as well too, as Don said at the beginning, when we get to then, we'll tell you how you can get some of that information. So I can definitely get some scripting over to you. I have done this on a one-on-one basis with many agents over the years. So if any of you would like to go over this together, let me know. It may seem, it seems a little bit maybe almost trite, for lack of a better word. The reason why I've found it to be very successful with agents who have used it is the fact that it is simple, and the fact that it's visual, which always offers more persuasive abilities to be able to get the client to take action. But if you guys would like to go over this together, let me know. Again, this is just a means of getting you from point A to point B. How do we talk about really what's important to the client and what to focus on? Well, you don't know unless you find out their particular situation. And then from here, as mentioned, we would pivot. So like in this situation, Don mentioned, dying too soon would be a concern for him and how to impact his family. Here, I would pivot to, like we have, for example, a one-page fact finder here that I can, for those who are interested, I can get this over to you as well too. I'm not going to go over this in detail with Don, but essentially what it does is it just sort of scales, what is going to be the actual need for Don given his situation regarding his debt. So the left-hand side here, you have his basic needs calculation based on debt. How much life insurance does he have? And the bottom here, it's going to show, how much he needs that is maybe that he doesn't currently have to be able to cover that debt. And on the right-hand side, you have the human life value calculation, which is based more on income. So this is going to be a higher value here. So the whole idea is, I call it setting the goalposts. You want to aim for this value here, but you at least want to get them this amount of coverage. And this is the range, maybe something in between is where you want to go to give them that coverage. So I think this is a really useful tool. And the whole idea behind the 3 threats is, again, to get them to that point to find out what's going to be most important to them. And then the rest, at that point, it's really sold because the client has told you, here's the threat, here's what I need to do. And then you're going to find out, okay, based on your situation, here's my recommendation. And then you can back into it, depending on their affordability as well. Don, anything else you want to interject there as well?
No, I think this has been great. And I think if anybody would want to have, either the scripts, the PowerPoint presentation, or even having, Wade go over this with you on a one-to-one basis, go ahead and put that in the questions box right now. Scripts, PowerPoint, walkthrough, or however you want to put that in there. By all means, go ahead. I think that would be a great idea, right, Wade?
Yes, I agree. Put that. So if you could put comments in the chat box, if you guys are interested in getting the, like Don mentioned, the PowerPoint. It's just it's a 2-page webinar PowerPoint, but the scripting is important because this is really, a lot of it has to do with timing, like what you say and how you say it, when you say it, and you're preparing your client ahead. So a lot of it's part of engaging with your client to get them to see, hey, this is, they're tracking right, and this is what's important to me. If they don't see an importance there, they're not going to engage. So that's really the whole point of that. And again, if you have questions on going over that, let me know. I'm happy to assist. Are you seeing any questions at all in the box there?
Yeah, I'm seeing that people are actually saying, they're wanting the PowerPoint, they want the scripts. So yeah, people are actually putting messages in the questions box, which is awesome. One thing I'd like to talk to you all about here before we conclude is, so what we just went through is on a one-to-one basis, right? When you're belly to belly, face to face with people. Next week, Wade and I are going to be back. It's not a part of our Gold Standard webinar series. It's going to be its own standalone webinar, but where we're going to actually show how you can do the 3 threats to your retirement income in a webinar. So one to many, right? Oh wow, we're getting a lot of interaction here. We have so many people wanting all that information. This is awesome.
I see that. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So be on the lookout for an invitation. It'll be a completely separate invite to next week's webinar, where we go over the 3 threats to your retirement income webinar, right? Where it actually, you can invite your clients to a webinar, and we go through the 3 threats in a webinar style series. Now that one's going to be about 30 minutes long, and we don't offer any solutions, but we actually go through more in detail what those threats are. And, we use a lot of storytelling to get people emotionally involved. And then the call to action at the end would be to have them set up a time with you or us, or however we want to do it. If we want to work with the concierge, that would be a good thing too. So just be on the lookout for that invitation. And I guess that's all I have here. And I'm just going to go through this. If you want to kind of wrap up a little bit, I want to see if there's any other questions other than what the scripts here.
Perfect. Yeah, I would just say, I think it's good for you guys. Something, it's kind of a comfort level. It's good to get outside of, the zone of maybe what you've gotten used to. But I think once you do it and once you get used to it, I know that when I went over it, it was just, you practice it until it becomes routine. But then you take that and you can incorporate it within your appointments. Have it be, for example, at the end. Now, you can't do it, obviously, Medicare, you have scope of appointment, but after Medicare, you can contact your clients and say, hey, I'm doing annual reviews here. Want to make sure that you have, the right amount of coverage and coverage that's most beneficial to you and your family. when's a good time to get together and go over it with them then. But whatever it is you're talking about it within an appointment, say property and casualty, slip it in at the end of the appointment. Hey, I just wanted to go over something with you to make sure that we're tracking right here and you have the coverage that you need. So, and again, let me know you want to go over it together, one-on-ones. I go back and forth a lot with agents where I'll go over it with them and then say, okay, a week or two later, they'll practice it and then they'll go over it with me and practice on me as well too. So I'm happy to assist with that also. So with that, if you don't have anything else to add, Don, I'm going to leave my contact information up so you guys can see it. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me, give me a call, shoot me an email. Hey, Wade, I'd love to go over that. Or you have particular questions on how it works, how to incorporate all that stuff. Let me know. I'm happy to help you guys out. So I'm going to share my screen. Thank you guys for joining today's webinar on the 3 threats. Here's my contact information. And well, actually, let me know, Don, if you can see this.
Not yet.
Sure. Oh, here we go. Hold on one second.
There it is. Perfect. So we'll leave this up for a little while, but yeah, by all means, take down, Wade's information there. Feel free to reach out. And again, be on the lookout for next week's webinar that is separate from the Gold Standard series. That we're getting a lot of really good positive feedback on the Gold Standard webinar series. So we're going to continue this into the new year. So once you register once, you'll be registered for them all. So just be on the lookout for your emails for the next one. I think that the next one is what, January 20th?
It's going to be the 20th, January 20th.
January 20th.
And Jen is going over an annuity concept, if I'm not mistaken, on that one.
Absolutely.
So Jen Wick will be going over that. So hop on that for sure if you can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just going to go through here and just take a look, make sure that we're covering everybody. And yeah, there's no other questions, but just a lot of interaction. Thank you so much for your interaction, people. It's amazing that you guys are here, and we appreciate you. We thank you for your business, and look forward to working with you all in the future.
Thanks everyone for joining, and I'll leave my contact information up, and I will be following up as well. Thanks and have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.